Approximately 30 to 40% of all alcoholics actually have true alcoholism. So is alcoholism a mental illness, or is it or other illnesses tie into it? Well, today we will discuss how mental illness ties into alcoholism and its effects it has on the brain and the body. It is crucial to know these facts so that you may know the cause and effects of this drug. Alcohol abuse will lead to physical and physiological damage and will become permanent if not dealt with in a timely manner. We will discuss 3 points. Overconsumption affects the mind and the body, how mental illness ties in alcoholism, and if you can recover from this. So starting with point 1, over a period of time, sustained alcohol abuse will lead to serious mental and physical problems. It hinders the frontal lobe of the brain more so than any other part of the brain. And this is where all the motor functions take place. This is where all cognition takes place. This is why drunk people stumble. It begins to take a toll on the mind. Alcohol cravings becomes extraordinarily intense. According to the National Library of Medicine, the NLM, the frontal lobe is the most vulnerable to the drunkening effects of alcohol. More so, the right hemisphere is more susceptible to it than the left. And the right hemisphere is what controls cognition, spatial awareness, facial recognition, balance, stuff like that. However, this still begs the question, how does mental illness tie into alcoholism? Well, this is the main point too. This is very difficult to say because it's a very gray area. However, it is believed that most alcohol-dependent individuals have anxiety disorders, depressive disorders, bipolar disorders. Most, if not all, the alcoholics that I have known were all depressed, angry, just depressed people. This anxiety and depression could be released as excessive drinking behavior, but the problem could be much more underlying and sinister. Referring to the Journal of Lifelong Learning in Psychiatry, published by Focus, less than 40% of all alcoholics actually have alcoholism, meaning some genuinely cannot control their cravings and they relapse despite knowing what can happen. On the contrary, these mental illnesses can clump up together and coalesce together and coexist, so to speak. And this burdens the mind, which leads to this excessive drinking behavior, which then will lead to alcoholism over a period of time. So mental illness can lead you to have alcoholism, which means the problem is rooted deep inside of you. Now, before I go on my last point of recovery, I want to show you a diagram. So this represents the alcoholic's brain and the alcoholic's brain and the normal person's brain. You can see that areas up here in the frontal lobe is way more deteriorated and diminished than the control subject. This is how many gallons they consumed over their life, and this is how many gallons the non-alcoholic consumed. And you can see just how much of the brain it rots away. And this brings me to my third point. Can you recover? Well, I do believe you can heal and recover to an extent. Your body will never truly be the same. For example, I know someone who had liver transplant. They are now have a different liver inside of their body. When you start drinking, how much you drink plays a really big role. And this can play a role in how detrimental the effects are. Unfortunately, many alcoholics that feel like succeeding start drinking in their adolescence. Information pulling from the Science News Explorer states that binge drinking beginning in adolescence will permanently damage the brain functions and degrades your brain. And there's no coming back to it. There's really not. They did a study on rats and how the cells multiplied and beginning to rot the brain, they will never truly bounce back. However, this does not mean they'll become vegetables. How soon you halt the drinking and if you can stay off the drinking does matter, though, and you will eventually get to the point of no return if the drinking continues. So the answer, yes, to an extent, but your body will never truly be the same. Now that concludes my speech. I have gone over how alcohol affects the mind and the body, how mental illness ties into alcoholism, and if one can recover, which they can. Excessive alcohol consumption will lead to neurological and mental discomfort. To whomever listens to this speech, I hope I've informed you in a way that makes you see alcohol differently. Absorb this information in your head and keep it locked away so that you may know the cause and effects of alcohol, so that you may be vigilant of its dangers. I'll cite my sources here. Thank you.